Hi everyone, good morning and welcome back to my cozy lifestyle. Today I am making few chutneys that I often keep in my kitchen. Some are fresh chutneys, some are slightly cooked, and each one goes well with different meals, from parathas to sandwiches to chillas. Instead of making them every day, I like to prepare a few together. That way, the fridge always has something ready to add flavor to a simple meal. I'm starting with a very fresh green chutney using coriander and mint. For this, I'm using onion, whole coriander, cumin, black salt, white salt, garlic, ginger, ice cubes, green chilli, lemon, mint, and coriander leaves. I always add ice cubes while grinding chutney. It might look unusual, but it actually helps keep the chutney bright green instead of turning dull or dark after grinding. Now everything goes into the mixture jar together. I usually start with very little water because herbs release their own moisture while grinding. If needed, you can always add a little more later. And once it's blended, you get this beautiful bright green color. Fresh chutneys always look so vibrant when they are just made. I like storing chutneys in small glass containers in the fridge. They are easy to use during the week whenever we are making sandwiches, parathas, pakoras, or even simple dal rice meals. Next is peanut chutney. For this, I am taking peanuts, coriander, curry patta, hing, green chilli and garlic, sesame, whole red chilli, and salt. I start by roasting the peanuts along with a few whole red chilies. Roasting really changes the flavor of peanuts. They become much deeper and more aromatic. I like adding sesame right at the end so they toast gently without burning. They add a very mild nutty flavor and also make the chutney a little richer. Once everything cools down, I transfer it to a mixture jar. All of these together create a very balanced flavor. I usually add just a little water first and grind it slowly. Peanuts already have natural oils, so the chutney becomes quite creamy as it blends. And once it's ready, the chutney turns slightly thick and smooth with a beautiful light brown color. This chutney goes really well with dosa, chillas, parathas, or even simple idlis. Sometimes I also spread a little inside sandwiches. It adds a completely different flavor. Next I am making a garlic chutney. For this I am using garlic, soaked red chilies, salt and coriander. I had soaked these dried red chilies in warm water for some time. Soaking them softens the chilies and also helps bring out their color nicely. Instead of plain water, I like using the same water in which chilies were soaked. That water already has the color and flavor of the chilies, so it makes chutney much richer. Now everything gets blended together into a thick deep red chutney. At this stage, the flavor is quite strong because the garlic is still raw. So after grinding, I like to cook this chutney briefly in a pan. I heat a little oil, add some cumin seeds, and then pour the chutney into the pan. Cooking it for a minute or two helps mellow the raw garlic flavor and also brings all the spices together. I usually keep stirring it on low flame so it doesn't stick or burn at the bottom. And once it thickens slightly, the garlic chutney is ready. This one tastes especially good with parathas, rotis, or even simple dal and rice. Next I am making a quick tomato chutney. For this I am using tomatoes, garlic, whole dry red chilies, some chopped onion and little fresh coriander. I am using the same pan again. Into the pan I am adding tomatoes, garlic and whole red chili. I roast them gently on a low flame for a few minutes. This softens the tomatoes and also brings out slightly smoky flavor. As the tomatoes cook, they start becoming soft and juicy, which makes them easier to blend later. Once they are lightly roasted, I transfer everything into a chopper. Now I add some fresh coriander leaves and onion. I like adding onion at this stage instead of cooking it because it gives the chutney a little freshness and texture. I pulse it only few times so it stays slightly porous instead of becoming smooth paste. And this is the consistency I like, soft roasted tomatoes with a little bite from the onions. Then I transfer the chutney into a bowl. This tomato chutney tastes really good with rotis, parathas or even simple snacks. Next I am making coconut chutney. For this I am using fresh coconut, some coriander leaves, little roasted chana dal, green chilies. I am also adding a spoon of sweet chutney here. It gives a slight balance to the flavor. If you don't have sweet chutney at home, you can simply use little tamarind and a small piece of jaggery. The chutney is quite thick, so I mix a little water into it first, and then I use the same water while grinding. Everything goes into the mixture jar and it blends into a smooth coconut chutney. Sometimes coconut takes a little extra time to grind, so I check once in between and add little more water if needed. And this is the consistency I like, smooth, slightly thick and very creamy. To finish it, I like prepare a tempering, a little oil, mustard seeds, curry leaves and one dry red chili. And I pour this hot tempering right over the chutney. That sizzling sound always makes the chutney smell amazing. Just mix it once and the coconut chutney is ready. Next I am making simple onion chutney. For this I am using chopped onion, red chili powder, garlic cloves, coriander powder, green chili and salt and some freshly chopped coriander. All the ingredients go straight into the mixture jar. I add a little water and then grind everything together. As it blends, the onions break down and the chutney slowly turns into a smooth paste. The red chili powder also gives it a nice warm color. After grinding, I like to cook this chutney for a minute. So I heat a little oil in a pan and add mustard seeds. Once the mustard seeds start spluttering, I pour the chutney into the pan. I cook it gently on a low flame, stirring it slowly. This step helps remove the sharp raw onion taste and the chutney becomes slightly thicker. This chutney tastes really good with hot parathas. The last chutney I am making today is mint chutney. This one is very fresh and light compared to the others. For this I am using fresh mint leaves, little coriander, green chili, garlic, black salt and some thick curd. All the ingredients go straight into the mixture jar. I'm not adding any water here because the curd already gives enough moisture for grinding. As it blends, the chutney turns smooth and creamy. Mint always gives such a fresh aroma when it's freshly ground. I usually like keeping chutneys like this slightly thick. That way they work well as a dip or even as a spread. And this is the consistency I like, smooth, creamy and nicely green. This chutney goes really well with sandwiches, pakoras, chillas or even simple snacks. Sometimes when the food is simple, a fresh chutney like this completes the plate. And with that, all the chutneys are ready. Each one has its own flavor and texture, some fresh, some roasted, some slightly creamy. That's what I really like about chutneys. Even every simple meal starts feeling a little more interesting. A warm roti with butter, a little chutney is honestly such a simple but satisfying combination. And with parathas, it's always nice to have a few different chutneys on the side. If you enjoy simple home cooking like this, you can subscribe to the channel. I share these kind of everyday kitchen ideas here. Thank you for spending your time in my kitchen today. Until next time, keep smiling and bye-bye.